to understand what it's like to be a writer, because yes, we've taken time to actually understand storytelling, and I think it's important for people to see how storytelling relates to people. But like as a writer yourself, when even if you understand all this, it doesn't help you for your life. I think
Yeah.
most people, yes, you have the information and understanding, but it doesn't stop life being life. You know, I think one of the ways that I struggle too when I become as a writer is that sometimes I lose the inspiration. I think losing inspiration as a writer is very difficult because this is something that you hold dear to. Is because your identity, and it's a way sometimes you even express yourself. If I don't express myself through writing, then I'm not expressing. There's words that aren't being said to myself even. How do you deal with those times when it becomes difficult to find the right words?
I mean, I think as a writer, you're kind of, unfortunately, the struggle of your life is finding the right words. Um, even if I had like 150 books published and I was like a billionaire,
Mm.
I would still hyperfixate on the fact that I did not phrase it the way I want to phrase it now. Um, that's kind of what makes being a writer annoying, because you get very lost in, like, I guess, semantics of it all. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to losing inspiration, for example, or like, I guess, struggling to find the right words, because that quite literally can cause you to lose inspiration because you're just looking at it and going, no, this isn't
This
it.
is what I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even me, for example, right? Like I'm obviously doing my PhD. And I got halfway into writing a novel, and then now I'm in the process of redrafting that entire half. I still have yet to even write the second half. But it does help having, one thing I've really had to kind of just accept about the process of writing is that it's absolutely not going to be perfect, and it definitely isn't going to be perfect on your first try, so don't even bother. But what I mean by that is more like, write it anyway, even though you know for a fact it is not what you want it to be, even if you're super uninspired. As long as you have the, I guess, like, skeletal framework of what it is you're trying to get across, in the chapters or in the arcs, or, whatever your 3-act structure. Having a direction is super important, because then, you're not going to derail yourself. And even if it's not what you want it to be, it's better to have a rough outline of what you think it's going to be, because then if you think of something better, that's because you took the time to actually write it down in the rough first. Like, especially with something that, like, I'm doing, which deals quite often with, like, fight scenes and things like that. It's obviously balancing dialogue with fight scenes, with exposition, and then description as well. Because I have a really annoying tendency to massively over describe. But I think I do that reflexively, sorry, because I feel the need to make it super clear to myself what exactly I'm picturing here. And it's fine to do that, I think, in rough drafting, because eventually you will whittle it away, and whatever you were actually trying to say will kind of expose itself. But at least if it's there, you can read it and reread it over and over and over again.
Is there a process you have for yourself then when it comes to that kind of, when you find yourself in that difficulty?
Well, I mean, I spent nearly 5 years planning. And, like, by the time that I sat down to even begin, I'd already had, like, in my head, I'd had, like, an entire series drummed up. And I found that, ironically, actually, that really tripped me up in beginning at all. Because, especially with what I want it to be about, it's like every single time I start any chapter, it's like I have all of this, but I can only show, like, all of that. But that is the most important part. Like, everything else doesn't matter if I can't even get this much across properly.
But it feels like that is what informs this.
It does, of course.
So it also matters, no?
But the reader doesn't need to know all of that.
That's
do
true.
They only need to know what you need them to know. Like, but that's actually what makes it fun for me, is because I'm realizing, especially in retrospect, like, I may know exactly where whichever character ends up in, wherever down the line. But I don't need to set that up right now, Like, I mean, first of all, I need to get it published regardless. But even in the right now, that is kind of irrelevant, because it's not about all of that. You know, they've only just appeared. And in that way, why would the reader care is maybe also a better question to ask. Like, say, I don't know, with like the mechanics of what, because obviously I'm trying to write a weird blend of fantasy and sci-fi at the same time, which kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but you know, I mean, well, whimsy, you know, just have whimsy maybe. Like with that, I find that, you know, even something as simple as like, oh, there's a spaceship. My knee-jerk reaction is to go, okay, the spaceship works exactly like this. The fuel comes from this. You know, blah, blah, blah. It was first invented by this guy 400 years ago. But this is the most important part. Who the hell cares? Who cares is a really, really, really important question to answer. Because usually the logical answer is no one cares. Because that's also not what you're supposed to focus on right now. Like, you know, it's that thing of like, the way that I guess I would sort of look at being a writer, especially now, is you're a bit like a magician in the sense that your entire job is to make people suspend their disbelief. So in that way, you only give them enough to keep their attention hanging. But if you give them too much, they already don't care because they already think that they know how the trick works. So you've lost them. So the goal is always to keep them guessing just enough to get them to get to the next part. And then as you expose more, their feeling becomes one of like, oh, I've made this understanding myself. Like, this is how I understand
I've
it.
connected the dots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the rewarding part of reading a book. And it's really easy to lose that, especially when, you know, say you have something like, I don't know, like a modern example, I guess, would be like Jujutsu Kaisen, right? Like, why was that so captivating to the readers? Because, I mean, I was a weekly reader for like 3 years, man. Like, God, what a ride. But every single time for example, a new technique was revealed or something worked a little bit differently to how we were used to, it was instantly like, how does this work? And the reward was actually in working out the rules without having to be told and spoon-fed the answers. Because the author, I don't know who it is, but the author, Akutami, they were really good at that because it was this constant guessing game. Like, even when a character, say for example, figured out the rules of another one's like magic, that would still then be undercut with a new surprise. You know, I mean, even the main villain of the whole series, Sukuna, well, I guess not main villain, but one of them, his technique kept like not changing, but like just, you know, more rules were added.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get back onto that because I want to ask you about how like multimedia helps you with writing. But before we do that, just on the point about helping people get through the rut of like, you know, like writer's block, for example. What I've learned, right, is like the act of leaving it alone.
Yeah.
Is like such an important act because I feel like
Massively.
hyper fixation on something like that does not help.
Yeah.
And like we often feel like when we're not writing, it's actually something that's not good, but it's a process of us changing our form because I feel like if you wanted to stay stationary, you could always do that. You could always just keep writing the stuff that you did before and never change and never grow. But you recognizing that actually what I'm doing is not good enough or not what I want to be, I want to change, I want to get better, is what stops you because now you have to figure out a different way to do what you've done before.
Yeah.
I think that process is difficult for some writers, which is why we go through writer's block. So like I think it's like reframing it.
Yeah.
Where rather than it being a block, it's almost like a new pathway. It's like you're finding new pathways to actually do this thing that you kind of used to doing.
Yeah.
You know, and then once you begin to do that differently, then you find like, okay, cool. Like when the time comes for you to do something new that you're actually like proud of or happy with, then you'll find it's completely changed from what you had when you did before.
Yeah. But to be honest, what I find with myself especially is that like I actually spend more time in writer's block than I do out of it. But that's also because I'm hyper fixated on trying to make it, you know, perfect, even though I just said all of that. I'm a massive hypocrite.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that I find really helps me though is actually taking a step backwards and trying to, I guess, like understand the mechanics of how storytelling actually works more, because if you're stuck, the best thing you can do is just go back to the theory, like, because at the end of that is your best guide. And obviously, when it comes to art, it's a subjective thing, but storytelling does have this really like proven formula.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's like physics
Yeah,
calculations.
it's got a
like
skeleton
calculus
that
or
you
whatever.
just you build your stuff around.
Yeah.
It. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So all you can do is just arm yourself better with how the bones work. And that might resolve it for you. Like for me, like I was stuck for quite a while and trying to understand and justify to myself why this had to be this way. And the more that I do in terms of learning about the theory, the clearer the picture becomes to me. Like, I mean, imagine like I'm about to finish my second year of my PhD, and I had not once thought of breaking down what I'm doing into a simple 3-act structure. And it was only when I actually really I started reading Into the Woods, and then I really sat down, because I already know what I want it to be about. That was never the concern. Most people, I think, before you sit down to write a novel, know exactly what you want it to be about, or anything really. But how you actually get there in the minutiae of writing chapters makes all of the difference. But doing a 3-act structure forces you to really, really, really carefully look at what you're saying and why you're trying to say it and how it's being said.
I think also one of the ways that we struggle with that is that, and I want to just come on to this point also, and I want to get your opinion on this, is the identity of being a writer. People so much feel like they have to live up to that identity. And I think that's the struggle, there's this idea that I really like, and it's like, it's basically just be careful that the mask you wear in chase of your dreams doesn't become who you are. It's like, you to be a writer, you have to become this thing, It's like the way you kind of look at the world, the way you kind of look at literature, all of these things. But often you run into the trouble of not finding a balance with who you are and, what you do, and I think, there's a version of you where the dream will serve you, but there's another version where you serve the dream. I think finding that balance is so important. What do you think about the identity of a writer? How do you think we can better, or people should better, kind of relate to that?